Let us start the conversations and storytelling. First, Vicky. Atlantic City has been an epicenter for entertainment and nightlife pretty much since it was founded. How did Atlantic City become such a spot for the best entertainment in the world, and what were some of the highlights of Atlantic City's rich history, entertainment-wise?
Well, after the train was able to bring, they used to call Atlantic City the lungs of Philadelphia. And then it became location, 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 because it was this resort site. And so naturally, whenever you have a resort, you have things that build up. And we had this boardwalk, the first boardwalk ever. You have things that build up that would entertain people. You have displays, you have exhibits, you have restaurants, tea rooms, and naturally you start to have entertainment. We had the old bands of the era at one time, and then we had W.C. Fields started in Atlantic City. He used to have a drowning act every day by Fortescue Pier. He would run out in the ocean and pretend he was drowning, and then someone would bring him in, and then he'd collect coins. Sophie Tucker saw her name in lights the first time on the boardwalk at the Criterion Theater. It just became, it was a natural growth. And then, of course, you had all the great Broadway tryouts in Atlantic City. You can't imagine what stars came here. You had Helen Hayes and George Gershwin and Irving Berlin. Not only put shows on here, but he wrote There's No Business Like Show Business down here for Annie Get Your Gun, which he took over after Jerome Kern passed away, and Pretty Girls Like a Melody. You had the most famous stars played here. I have a list of some of them that I could. Alfred Lunt, Marilyn Miller, The Scandals of 1920, Helen Hayes, Lorette Taylor, George M. Cohan, Eddie Cantor, Ethel Barrymore, Fanny Brice, Al Jolson. It went on and on. U.B. Blake used to play the piano down here from about 1905 to 1915, and then he himself became the first African American to put on shows on Broadway with the Bamville, and so it just exploded after that. I mean, the history. I mean, I always like to say it was Vegas before Vegas, because really, if you think the Rat Pack started in Vegas, you're mistaken. The Rat Pack started right here. Sammy played. That's right. Sammy, I can remember at the 500 Club, Pinky, you remember this too, seeing Sammy and the Will Maston Trio. And I was very privileged to be very close to Sammy's mom. She was actually a bartender at Gracie's Little Belmont. And she told me a lot of private stories about Sammy, but she told me Sammy started the 500 Club, and then, of course, played the Club Harlem and other places. Sinatra's history in Atlantic City is the history of show business. He started here in 1939 with not the band you think, Harry James Band, and then he came back and he played the 500 Club, but nobody would hire him any place. Skinny kept him eating and working, and then he came back and he played the casinos. So I can only think of Frank Sinatra and Henny Youngman, who played every venue in Atlantic City. So Atlantic City was a place where Martin and Lewis, I mean, the famous story of Jerry Lewis was a pantomimist, and he played the 500 Club, and Dean Martin was just a saloon crooner. And the two of them met at the 500 Club and had such chemistry and started kibitzing. They just became an overnight sensation, and that happened down here. So Eddie Cantor, Al Jolson. You know who was a Charleston dancer at the Beaux-Arts on the boardwalk? A girl by the name of Ruby Stevens, but you know her as Barbara Stanwyck. So it was just every musician, Bessie Smith played the Paradise Club for Charlie Johnson's band. Charlie Johnson became one of the great musicians of our time. Yes, in the 20s. So, you know, so just every star came through Atlantic City.
Much in the light, but when he gets in the dark, you'd be surprised. I know he looks as slow as the Erie, but you don't know the half of its theory. speak. He looks as cold as an Eskimo, but there's fire in his eyes. He doesn't say very much, but when he's starting to speak, you'd be surprised. He's not so good at the start, but at the end of the week, you'd be surprised. On a streetcar or in a train, you'd think he was born without any brain, but in a taxi cab, oh boy, you'd be surprised.